present to you Richard Carter. First, before I begin this speech, I would like to apologize to Mr. Hilliard and Mr. Shepard. I regret having to go around you in order to get my speech approved, and I really appreciate your understanding in allowing Dr. Nugent to approve it instead. It contains no inappropriate language, no offensive topics, and no slanderings towards anyone here. But I needed this speech, this story, to be completely and 100% from me, without any corrections or interjections. It is a story that I've kept to myself. None of you have heard it before, and while it may have been one of the easiest stories to write down, I'll say it is the hardest story I've ever had to tell. There was a boy. He was your average second-grade public school kid. He liked recess, had a bunch of friends, and had little homework to do. And he was happy, just as any kid his age should be. He was different, though. Different in little ways. He wore big glasses, ones that usually weighed his head down. He got straight A's without doing much work, and he was pretty proud of it, too. His best friend was just about as smart as he was, and after a while, his parents decided that it was best for him to transfer to private school. The boy was given two choices: go to private school with his best friend, like his parents wanted, or stay at public school with all his other friends. The boy cried. The boy couldn't deal with being put in charge of such a big decision. It was a tough one, and it made him sad, but he chose private school, and by third grade, that's where he was. It was strange, though. The boy only had one friend now, who would look around for him at school, but he would never see him. The friend had all different classes in the boy. The boy became scared, shy. He didn't know how to make friends, and for a while, he didn't make friends. He felt so alone. He would stand on the football field, watching the other kids play, and feel strange, standing there, just watching. He was just too shy to do anything about it. The boy's loneliness manifested itself into a need for attention. He had to get them to notice him somehow, some way. He couldn't stand being alone anymore. He had been raised on cartoons, and being as good as anything else he could have based himself on, he started acting silly and goofy at the characters in the shows. He would do stupid things. He would say stupid things, and they would laugh at him. And he enjoyed it. He had found that randomness was a good source of laughter. So he often said and did the things out of the ordinary to amuse his classmates. He found friends this way, friends that liked how he made them laugh, and friends that the boy liked to make laugh. As the boy progressed onward into middle school, he found new ways to make his friends laugh, to keep his friendship going. These new jokes he made, however funny they were to his friends, became less and less funny to people who weren't his friends. To them, he became that weird kid with the glasses, and he could see. They scared him. He didn't know what to do to get them to laugh, so he often retreated back into the comfort zone of his friends. He didn't want them to hate him, he just didn't know what to do. By 7th grade, the boy had isolated himself from mostly everyone that wasn't good friends with him. From that point on, he began to dive further and further away from the norm. He began to have an obsession with music, not because it had a good beat or a good sound, but because he liked how it cut him off from the world, like it was his own little sanctuary. He dove into strange music, which when people asked him about or tried to look at his iPod, made him feel nervous and make up excuses to hide it. The boy held on to childish things like Pokemon and cartoons, because they made him happy. He felt different, separated. The boy thought of himself as someone who couldn't even be around the popular kids because he was so different. It was like they spoke a different language. His self-confidence plummeted. He didn't play any sports. He was a complete nerd. Why should anyone but his friends like him? The boy began to take compliments as sarcasm, and anything a girl said as something just to tease him and mess with him. He hated people. He hated himself. So the boy hid away. behind his computer screen. He began to make new friends on the internet because there, he didn't have to be a loser. He didn't have to feel so separated. He could be anything he wanted there, and he soon discovered that there were a lot of people like him there. It was like he was living two separate lives, but of course, school flung him back into reality. The boy had a crush on a girl since the 3rd grade. He knew he was nothing. He knew he didn't stand a chance, but his friends tried to convince him otherwise. And on Valentine's Day, being that naive little boy that he was, he gave her a gift. For once in his life, he felt like he had some kind of chance, or something, anything, or some sort of happiness. But the dream was crushed, and he was rejected, and it cracked him. He blamed himself for being so stupid as to think he had a chance, that he was anything besides weird. The boy stopped trying. He wasn't meant to fit in. He began to have strange, depressed thoughts. He began to analyze things, bad things. He looked at all his loneliness. He looked at his obscurity. He asked, why? Why was he such a clutch around girls? Klutz. Why was he so shy? He was 15 in high school. He should be doing high school things, like going to parties and hanging out with friends. But no. He was at home, behind his computer, with his internet friends. He tried to think out a solution, tried to think of ways to make his life better. He compiled all his ideas into thoughts in hopes that he could figure something out, but it never came true. He was who he was, strange and sad. He wished, oh how he wished he knew how to be like them, like everyone else. What if it didn't work out? What if he always stayed this way? What was the point of school? To work and slave just to go to college and then work and slave for a job? That was the boy's nightmare. That things would stay the sad, same way that they were. He wanted somebody. He desperately just wanted someone to talk to about all this. His friends didn't take him seriously. He'd become their joke. Why should they take him seriously? So he held it in. And after a while, it began to eat away at him. The boy began to have suicidal thoughts. The pain, the suffering, was it even worth it? If it couldn't get better, was it really worth going through? This loneliness, would they even care if he did it? Where did I go wrong, the boy wondered. What did I do to deserve this? And then, breakdown hit the boy like a sack of bricks. It was through all of his thoughts, all of his analyzing, that he came to realize that it was all his fault. He could have tried to make friends, but he didn't. He could have tried to be sociable, but he didn't. He could have tried to be less weird, but he just didn't. He deserved it. All of it. The boy believed that he deserved to be sad because that's what he brought upon himself. It wasn't some accident. It wasn't some ill fate. There were people suffering in the world for things they couldn't help. And here he was, this boy, complaining about his life. He was pathetic. He was too weak, too scared to change now. He tried to be something he wasn't. It didn't happen. He always sank down, back into his familiar self. All his hope had flown away. Days became routine. School, home, school, home, school, home. There was nothing different. There was no excitement. It was just existing, just being. No happiness, no cares, no importance. He sat there on his computer, brooding with the other depressed people on the internet. That was his one comfort, that there were others there, right down with him, others that understood him. These people, though, they didn't want to help. They were cruel, and he felt like he was becoming just like them. The boy would tell you, when people are behind a screen, they can act a lot differently. Or at least that's what he thought. He made a new friend there one day. Someone who had been through the same loneliness, the same unwanted, and even more hell. But yet had come out on the other side, happy. Unbelievably happy, actually. The happiest, most kind-hearted person he had ever met. And yet, it didn't make sense. And he didn't believe it. How could someone who had suffered so much come out so cheery? The boy began to idolize him, idolize the craziness of the whole thing. He wanted more than anything to be like him, so he tried to change himself once again in hopes that maybe this time this could be it. And this time he had a little help. This new friend of his, even though he had no idea how it was possible, was getting him to think in new ways that he had never thought of before. He taught him how to believe that the past only defined the parts of you that let, that he didn't need to fix who he was, that he could be happy how he was, that it was all in perception. That was all in how the boy saw the world, how he chose to see it. And for once, in a really long time, he could smile. Smile without having any reason to smile than just being happy to be alive. He saw things in such a different light. He saw the wonderful friends that he had, and the loving, caring family that he wouldn't trade anything in the world for, and the wonderful life that had made possible for him. It's not to say that the boy was completely healed. The pain had left many scars, but those scars reminded him of what he was, what he could have been, and those scars made him look at people in a whole new way. That no matter how mean or cold or broken someone may seem, there's always some good lying beneath the surface that just takes some work to bring out into the light. That was what he wanted to do. He had known now how it felt to be that low, to be that sunk down deep into sadness, and he didn't want anyone to suffer like that. 20%, 1/5. 1/5 of all high school students nationwide suffer from depression or likewise mental illness. 2/3 of them don't ask for help. The number then rises. 44% of college students in 2010 reported feelings of depression, and 19% reported suicidal thoughts. Now, I did not write this speech as some kind of pity party for me. If that is the only thing that you take away from this, then I have truly failed. I wrote it because I know that there are people out there, hurting inside, too proud or not strong enough to talk about it, to reach out for help, thinking that no one could help. And trust me, the worst thing you can do is keep it bottled up like that. I kept it bottled up for so long it made me think there was no way out. Because of that, until December 2011, I didn't break out. I had just become so enclosed in my own thoughts that I thought I was self-sufficient, that I didn't need anyone to help me. But it's in our human nature to want to help those close to us. Sometimes we just don't know how. You don't have to play a therapist or solve everyone's problems to help. Maybe you could just be an open ear to someone who needs to let it all out, or be a true friend when someone's going through a rough time. When we're lost, trapped down deep in our hole, it's hard to climb our way up. We can grab and claw and struggle with all our might, but without something to grab onto, it seems like we just fall down further into the hole. But when someone puts their hand out there for us to hold on to, it might just be enough to lift us out. But once you're out of the hole, the world might seem a little bit brighter than you remember it.
Seen and heard hundreds and hundreds of senior speeches over the years, Richard. That may very well be the most courageous one I've ever heard. Another round of applause. The message is very positive, and I appreciate you sharing that with us and taking us on that journey. I know we can all take a lot away from it. Thank you again. We are dismissed.